this material existence. So he provides the process. He has created the material world, which is sort of like a prison house. You know, in a prison house, the government puts all of the rascals, the criminals. Why? To protect the honest citizens. I mean, or at least that's the theory. Now, of course, they do it as a business, but that's another thing. The original idea of prison is to correct the criminals. In fact, they even call it corrections department. So how do they correct them? Well, they should, or you know, they used to give them moral lessons. Have preachers come in and teach them and like that. You know, the idea is to give them wisdom, to give them ethics, to give them a sense of morality. That, look, you did this, and now your freedom is restricted. Just see. This is the consequences of this kind of bad behavior. So Kṛṣṇa is doing something similar. He's sending the rascal, rebellious souls to the material world and saying, look, this is the consequences of being selfish. This is the consequence of being attached. This is the consequence of imitating God. Your activities, your freedom have to be limited. Birth and death, those are the limitations in the material world. And you have to go through so much suffering. Because you're in the jail with the other criminals, the other rascals. And of course, they're going to treat each other very badly. So this is the material world. We have to get out. And Kṛṣṇa is giving that. He's giving that process in Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures. So we should take advantage of that. Now, for the impersonalists and the enemies of Kṛṣṇa, liberation means merging into the Supreme. The demons and the impersonalists do not care for Kṛṣṇa. But Kṛṣṇa is so kind that he gives this liberation even to his enemies and the impersonalists. There is the following statement in this connection. O Murari, Kṛṣṇa, how wonderful it is that although the demons, who were always envious of the demigods, have failed to penetrate your military phalanx, they have penetrated the region of Mitra, the sun globe. The word Mitra is used metaphorically. Mitra means the sun globe, and Mitra also means friend. The demons who opposed Kṛṣṇa as enemies wanted to penetrate his military phalanx, but instead of doing this, they died in battle, and the result was that they penetrated the planet of Mitra, or the sun planet. In other words, they entered into the Brahman effulgence. The example of the sun planet is given here because the sun is ever illuminating, like the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable illuminating Vaikuntha planets. The enemies of Kṛṣṇa were killed, and instead of penetrating Kṛṣṇa's phalanx, they entered into the friendly atmosphere of the spiritual effulgence. That is the mercy of Kṛṣṇa, and therefore he is known as the deliverer of his enemies also. But of course, if one enters into Brahman, he loses his individuality. And that's the equivalent of spiritual suicide. So Kṛṣṇa gives that liberation to the demons, but it's kind of a steep price to pay. Okay, so now we have one more. Number 60. The attractor of liberated souls. There are many examples of how Kṛṣṇa attracted even great liberated souls like Shukadeva Goswami and the Kumaras. In this connection, the following statement was given by the Kumaras. How wonderful it is, even though we are completely liberated, free from desire, and situated at the stage of Paramahamsa, we are still aspiring to taste the pastimes of Radha and Kṛṣṇa. Oh, that's very nice. See, some people think that Kṛṣṇa's pastimes are somehow affected by the modes of material nature. That Kṛṣṇa's form, for example, is a product of the modes of nature. That's why they're called Mayavadis, because they think that Krishna's form is a product of Maya, a temporary transformation of the mode of goodness. They think that Brahman is supreme, and the incarnations like Krishna are simply some temporary manifestation of Brahman. Now, if you start to ask them questions about this theory, you'll find that they can't explain it very well. Because the question is, of course, if Brahman is the source of Krishna, how come Brahman has no qualities and Krishna has all qualities? They can't explain this. They can't explain how something impersonal with no qualities can give rise to a person who has all qualities. See? They can't explain that. In fact, they deny that God has any qualities or energies at all. So if that's the case, how can, if Brahman is this God that they're talking about, how can God emanate an incarnation? See? The whole thing falls apart immediately. Just ask one or two questions and it's like, they can't defend it. They can't explain it. If God has no qualities and no energy, then what is the source of this material world? What is the source of all the energy we see? The light, the material elements, heat, life energy, consciousness? What is the source? If God has no energy, you see, this voidist or nihilist or Mayavadi philosophy, actually this is a very recent concoction. It's from the time of Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha, he made up this nonsense nothingness philosophy. And then this was copied by Shankaracharya and became the basis of the Mayavadi philosophy. But their philosophy is so poor, it's full of so many holes, so many logical inconsistencies, that it cannot, it can't convince any intelligent person. How is it possible? How is it possible that this universe, which is full of so much variety, could come from something that has no qualities and no energy? Simply, they're trying to rationalize their propensity to imitate God. They're trying to make an excuse how they can become the enjoyer, the owner, the doer, the knower, the proprietor, and like the controller, like that. Because actually, that's what the essence of material illusion is all about. These rascals, these material persons, they want to imitate God. They want to take over what God is actually meant to do. Creator, controller, owner, enjoyer, doer, knower, and like that. See, actually God is all these things. Krishna is all these things. But in material consciousness, in ignorance, we try to take over all these different roles. We try to imitate God, even though we have no qualification whatsoever. We still try to imitate. So Krishna is so kind that he gives these rascals liberation, but he'll give them, okay, it's like, okay, you want to worship the Brahman? Then you can go to the Brahman. You know, bye. They don't understand. Krishna has so many wonderful qualities, so many wonderful, unconquerable energies. One of those energies is Brahman, yes. But he has so many other energies that are personal in nature. See? Yeah, the material elements are impersonal. The Brahman is impersonal. Material energies are not sentient. But Brahman is sentient, even though impersonal. No, I don't claim to understand that. I've seen it, but I don't claim to understand it. It's a lot of these Spiritual concepts are inconceivable to our tiny brains. And we just have to accept it. You know, there are things that are beyond us. There are things we can't understand, that we're constitutionally unable to understand. Like, for example, how does Kṛṣṇa manifest so many millions of forms and incarnations? And they all have different activities and different qualities, and yet Kṛṣṇa is one. How is that possible? It's like, I can't understand it. You know? But I can accept it, because it's Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa can do things which are inconceivable to us. You know, how does Kṛṣṇa know every living entity? And how does Kṛṣṇa manifest within each and every atom? You know, it's inconceivable to us. But it's there in the scriptures,